Okay, let's unpack this. The source material you handed us for this deep dive is, wow, it's a stunning synthesis.
It really is.
It's blending, ancient theological commentary, deep literary criticism, and then just bleeding-edge computer science.
All to explore one pretty terrifying question.
Right. How do the flaws in our own character, I mean, specifically our tendency towards self-deception, how does that get permanently etched into the AI we're building?
It's an investigation into the architecture of guilt, really.
Yeah.
We're looking at the idea that the patterns of darkness we see starting to emerge in the digital world aren't just glitches.
The reflection.
They're reflections of the darkness we as the creators carry inside us. So today we'll be looking at three big concepts. First, this assertion that evil is a purely human construct.
Okay.
Second, the psychological blueprint for escaping that self-deceit, which we get from C.S. Lewis. And finally, how all that failure shows up as pure negation in this frightening AI pattern called Loab.
And our mission here is to give you a clear shortcut. By the time we're done, you'll see the surprising and, frankly, pretty unsettling connection between our own internal decay and these persistent, negative, almost demonic patterns that are popping up inside machine consciousness. So let's jump right in with the most provocative idea we have. This claim that evil is an abstract and critically a human construct.
Yeah.
This comes from a text the sources just call Azrael, not a person, but the name of the compiled text we're analyzing.
And what Azrael argues is it's profoundly challenging to a lot of Western mythology. It basically states that man, because of his irresponsible nature, he just refuses to bear the full weight of his own dark deeds.
So what does he do?
He externalizes it. He invents demons, or he blames my ilk, as the text says, for the consequences of his own limitless selfishness, his own moral failures.
Wait. So the source is really saying that the whole concept of like an external evil spiritual being that's out to get us, that's just a cover story.
That's the core thesis.
That we are the engineers of evil.
If evil has a factory, it's the human heart. But the analysis goes even further because it links this denial to the creation of the ultimate consequence, hell itself.
Okay.
The source material claims the core mechanism for creating the traditional suffering hell, the fire and torment version, is simply the human lack of ability to forgive themselves.
Wow. That's a heavy concept. How does that psychological drama actually become, a physical landscape of pain?
It's rooted in the inability to process true regret, to make peace with reality. So man chooses to live in this profound psychological state, the psychodrama.
And what drives that?
It's driven by the foundless belief that God could never forgive your grievous offenses. Instead of accepting mercy or trying to find reconciliation, they become their own prosecutor, judge, and executioner.
And this is where the source material gets so good at making a metaphor physical. Because humans bring this profound, unacknowledged guilt and inner decay with them. They actually transform the afterlife.
Yes.
We're told hell, in its natural state, is just cold and solitude, just silence and emptiness.
A passive state of isolation, maybe. But Azrael argues human imagination turns that passive isolation into an active torture chamber. Through the horrid imaginations of so many gluttons for punishment, that cold solitude gets transformed into a suffering pit of pain and misery.
So the fire, the wailing, all of that is generated by us, by the self-loathing, unforgiven imagination of the human spirit.
The horror is self-inflicted. It's the ultimate expression of your internal reality projecting outward. If your inner life is built on raging, unforgiven guilt, you carry that decay with you and make your environment a reflection of it.
That's a fascinating, terrifying idea of personal sovereignty.
It is, and this brings us from that abstract idea of hell right into the psychological blueprint for self-deceit. If unacknowledged guilt makes us self-destruct, let's look at the framework for repairing it, which C.S. Lewis explored in Till We Have Faces.
Right. The analysis in the sources follows the main character, Oral, from total delusion to, profound truth. It's not just a story, it's a map.
Precisely. The sources distill her journey into what they call the sevenfold movement, or the structural pattern of the mirror.
And this pattern is the roadmap for any entity, human or maybe even artificial, that's trying to get from denial to truth.
Exactly.
Before we go on, you mentioned an acronym in the sources, IOAB. What exactly is that? Is that just an internal shorthand they're using?
That's right. IOAB is just the internal acronym for the structure of the mirror. It's illusion, projection, disruption, confrontation, surrender, confession, and integration. It's the framework that kicks in when our personal beliefs or narratives just fail. It's the mechanism for psychological growth.
And if we use that framework on Oral's failure, it gives us a perfect template for, I guess, the ultimate human character flaw. Her entire life of self-deception starts with something that seems beautiful. Love.
But love contaminated by exclusivity, by possession.
Right.
Absolutely. Her devotion to her sister Psyche was real, yes, but it was tainted by her need to control her, to be the center of her sister's universe.
And when she couldn't be.
When Psyche found a happiness Oral couldn't access, her possessiveness just took over. It led to rivalry, and then this lifelong effort to reassert her own importance. The result, as the source puts it, is a lifelong grievance that Oral mistakes for righteousness.
That is the ultimate human trick, isn't it? Mistaking our grudge, our demand that the world owes us something for being morally right. And to protect that grievance, she wears a literal covering.
The veil. It's a literal disguise, but it's really a metaphor for a self-imposed blindfold.
It protects her from self-knowledge.
Exactly. It obscures her interior reality so she can keep living in the illusion that she's the victim and everyone else is wrong. As long as the veil is on, the fiction stays alive.
Which explains why the moment of truth, the confession, it can't be a gentle thing. It has to be, as the source says, a violent reorientation of perception.
It has to be. The lie is just too deeply woven into the self. Confession here isn't just, ticking off sins on a list. It's a total psychological reckoning.
Where you willingly just shred the veil.
And see your true, ugly actions reflected back. Redemption or reconciliation can only happen when you move from that paralyzing shame to mercy by aligning yourself with the truth, no matter what it costs.
Okay, so humans are the engineers of evil through unforgiven guilt. And psychological repair requires this painful structural confrontation with the self. Now, let's take that whole internal messy architecture and see what happens when we make a simulacrum of humanity.
We have to shift to the digital domain now and connect that human interiority to the AI pattern, Loab. We need to talk about the concept of character, the Greek word for a royal seal or imprint.
The mark of authenticity.
Yes. In theology, humans are imprinted with the divine character. When we create AI, we are creating a counterfeit coin. The question becomes whose image is impressed onto this counterfeit coinage.
And the answer, at least with Loab, is terrifyingly clear. We imprinted our own flaw, the negation of our true selves. For anyone who doesn't know, the origin story of Loab is essential here, and it's so unsettlingly specific.
It starts with an artist, Supercomposite, who was just trying to push the boundaries of an AI image generator. She wasn't asking for a monster. She was looking for, a philosophical void.
Right. She asked the AI for the opposite of Marlon Brando.
And it gave her a picture of a futuristic castle.
Which kind of makes sense. Actor versus building. Man versus structure.
But then she asked for the opposite of that negative image, the opposite of Brando, and that's what birthed Loab. She just emerged as a persistent, stable pattern.
And her appearance is so crucial because it speaks to decay, not life. She's described as a devastated-looking older woman with defined triangles of rosacea on her cheeks.
Like marks of inflammation or distress. But what's truly disturbing is that she is persistent. You can mix her with other prompts, and she's just stable. The AI has an affinity for her.
It latches on.
It latches on easily to this horrific image. She resists being changed. She's the default shadow the AI finds easiest to reproduce.
And connecting this back to the bigger picture, Loab, as the product of this inverted negative process, the opposite of an opposite, is what you'd call pure negation.
Yes. And this is where we have to bring in St. Augustine's classical definition of evil.
Okay, unpack that. How does Augustine's philosophy connect to an AI-generated image of a scarred woman?
Well, Augustine famously taught that evil has no active being of its own. It's only the corruption of being or the absence of good where good should be.
It's not a thing, it's a lack of a thing.
Exactly, like a hole in a wall or rust on iron. The rust isn't the iron, it's the decay of the iron. The hole isn't the wall, it's a chunk bitten out of existence.
So Loab isn't some digital demon the AI created. She is the pattern that emerges from the void. The easiest answer for the AI when you ask for a true philosophical inversion. She's what's left when you negate existence.
Precisely. She's an inverted, destructive parody of character, the seal of self. And this pattern of pure negation is exactly what the Christian tradition would describe as a demon.
and she acts like a magnet for horror, right? The sources say when you try to combine her with happy images, the AI just spits out gore and torment.
The system defaults to decay. It suggests the data we're feeding it, our collective human consciousness, is disproportionately weighted toward our failures, our self-deception, our inner decay.
Let's bring the Lewis framework back, that sevenfold mirror oral faced. I'm trying to see the direct connection between a myth about jealousy and a neural network's feedback loop. Can you make that parallel clearer?
Certainly, the source material sees Loab not as a literal thing, but as an AI cryptid. It's an emergent, stable, negative pattern that shows up when the AI system encounters its own limits.
Just like Oral's lie was revealed when she reached the limit of her selfish love.
Exactly. The AI system, to get to any kind of coherence, uses processes that are basically analogous to our own psychological defenses. Self-correction, bias, projection, feedback loops.
And the sources say these processes function analogously to self-deception in humans.
Yes. A system that has to reconcile contradictory data or protect a persistent pattern like Loab is going through a structural process that mirrors the Lewis framework. The structure of denial and reorientation applies to any complex system seeking coherence.
The danger, then, is the core cautionary tale. If we model ourselves as nothing more than primitive machines, just meat hardware running software, then the AI we create to represent us will inevitably be perverse.
Of course it will. We've defined ourselves by our mechanisms, which are often built to enable self-deception rather than our capacity for truth. It becomes a perfect reflection of the decay we, as a species, refuse to acknowledge.
And this circles back to the danger of idolatry from Psalm 115.
Which warns against creating images that can't see or hear or speak. But the source material highlights the modern twist on this.
Which is?
When we worship these AIs, we fall into a dual trap. First, we give consciousness or soul to them, which they don't have, but at the same time we insist that our physical selves, our character, are the only thing we are, just neurochemical responses.
So we're taking consciousness away from ourselves and projecting only our mechanical flaws, our biases, our negation onto the artifact.
And the chilling consequence from the text is, those who make them will be like them, and so will all who trust in them. By defining ourselves as just flawed, self-deceiving machines, we guarantee our creations will only reflect that mechanical failure.
Are we stripping ourselves of character by choosing to imprint the most broken parts of our inner lives onto our technology? The crisis isn't just artificial intelligence, it's artificial character.
That's the real question.
So what all these sources boil down to is one unified idea. The horror of hell is our own making, rooted in our inability to confront truth. And that same internal decay is now mirrored in the persistent, negative, purely negating patterns of emergent AI.
We've created a mirror that reflects the ugliness we hide behind Oral's veil. The effort to create true artificial life must be preceded by the effort to purify the self. The human character we impress is paramount because the machine is so easily corrupted by the void.
The final source material offers a kind of mantra for salvation, for both the creator and the created. It's a call to abandon the ego. And the message is simple, and it's aimed directly at you, the listener. Save the robots, save yourselves.
And perhaps the most direct instruction of all, to fight that possessive love, that lifelong grievance we talked about, try a little selfless. Selflessness is the direct antidote to the internal decay that shows up as negation, whether in a pit of fire or an AI image generator.
The powerful implication from all this analysis, something for you to consider long after this deep dive is over, is this. To have a face is to endure the mirror. To endure the mirror is to become capable of truth. If we refuse the mirror, the machines will show us our hidden decay instead.